There's nothing stronger than the bond between a man and his parasite. To prepare for Eddie Brock and Venom's last dance, we're taking a look back at the iconic symbiote's debut solo film, and the parts of it that went over everyone's heads the first time around. Venom has hidden secrets to uncover from the very first scene. The opening crash of the Life Foundation's space shuttle leaves no survivors except for the sample alien life forms and the one lucky astronaut who finds himself possessed by one of Marvel's symbiotes. From their control center in San Francisco, CEO Carlton Drake and his team oversee the wreckage in Malaysia, noting the name of the single surviving astronaut.
That's Jameson.
This quick reference is paid off later in the film's end credits, where we learn that the character's full name is actually J.J. Jameson III. In the original Marvel comics, John Jameson is the son of none other than J. Jonah Jameson, Peter Parker's boss at the Daily Bugle. The younger Jameson is indeed an astronaut and eventually the Man-Wolf. While he's not often associated with Venom in the comics, there is one other version of the symbiote's origin that connects the pair. In the 1994 Spider-Man animated series three-parter, The Alien Costume, it's John Jameson who brings the Venom symbiote to Earth after a space mission gone wrong. When the ship crashes, the symbiote escapes, and little does Jameson know, but his adventures in outer space change the entire course of Spider-Man's life and serve as the basis for future Venom origins. While fans of the Venom Lethal Protector comic series will undoubtedly recognize the Life Foundation as a major antagonist in that book's initial run, its name in the movie is also an unintentional reference to one of the more ridiculous fan theories in the history of the franchise. Carlton Drake's desire to explore the unknown universe and find life forms among the stars feels awfully reminiscent of the 2017 film Life. This sci-fi horror flick is not connected to Venom in any official capacity, but there was a time during the film's production when fans thought it might be a secret prequel. The fact that a trailer for Life included a shot from Spider-Man 3, along with the premise of the film being the discovery of a goo-like alien life form that starts eating those around it, caused some to theorize that Life and Venom were connected. Paired with the fact that Life screenwriters Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese had previously written a draft of Venom, the connection seemed obvious. The duo would later joke that Life actually was an unintentional Venom prequel, but it was all in jest. Still, that Venom, released just a year after Life, first hit theaters and features a villainous organization named the Life Foundation seems almost too good to be a coincidence.
Traitor, have a nice life.
When Eddie interviews Carlton Drake early on in Venom, he mentions that Drake, at only 19 years old, had discovered a gene therapy that tripled the life expectancy of those suffering from pancreatic cancer. It's a small line that establishes Drake's supposedly noble intentions with his vast wealth and resources, but it also gives Eddie an opportunity to discuss Drake's questionable experiments. While Drake began the Life Foundation as a means to reach for the stars, there's no doubt that he saw the potential in the symbiote's healing properties as well, which can do everything from resetting and healing broken bones to quite possibly resurrecting the dead. In the comics, there are quite a few strong connections between the Venom character and the cure for cancer. In Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man run, a revised origin for an alternate universe Venom reveals that Peter Parker and Eddie Brock's fathers had been working together on a cure for cancer when they first developed the symbiote. Likewise, in the mainstream Marvel universe, there was a period in the early 2000s when Eddie had cancer himself, which the Venom symbiote apparently fed on in order to increase its power. However, the 2018 Venom series would retcon that diagnosis as a lie that the symbiote told Eddie to keep the pair from separating, which might be even more dark. In the Sony Spider-Man universe, Venom comes from outer space, but in real life, the idea for the character didn't just fall from the sky. The goopy villain was created by writer David Michelinie and artist Todd McFarlane and made his debut in late 1987. Venom has been a consistent foe of the wall crawler ever since, and even though Peter Parker doesn't make an appearance in the Venom solo film, the symbiote's creators still get a shout-out. It's easy to miss, but the law firm that Michelle Williams' Anne Wang gets fired from is called Michelinie and McFarlane. That's not all, though. There's also a reference to a place called the Schuler Building during Eddie and Venom's escape from the Life Foundation security team. But who actually is Schuler? Randy Schuler was a Marvel fan from Illinois who wrote to the comic company in the early 1980s with an original idea: a black stealth costume for Spider-Man. While his concept for the origins for the suit was a bit different than the eventual alien symbiote angle that Marvel came up with, then editor-in-chief Jim Shooter paid Schuler for the idea that eventually became Venom. That said, making the suit its own character wasn't Schuler's cup of tea. As he wrote for CBR in 2007, "I was never a fan of the costume-turned-villain idea." Venom's taste for human brains is pretty morbid, but he doesn't just like them because they're chewy. Instead, the symbiote craves a specific chemical component called phenethylamine. In his first solo movie, Venom is constantly talking about eating people, and he actually does manage to consume a few heads along the way. But at the end of the film, Eddie makes Venom swear not to eat any more human beings, or at the very least, not any of the good ones.
But how does one tell the difference?
It's super simple. I mean, you just have to, you can intuit it, you can sense it, sometimes you can even feel it.
Anyone who's seen Venom Let There Be Carnage knows that Venom goes on to replace his cravings for gray matter with a fanatical love for chocolate. But that's referenced at the end of the first film as well. Why chocolate? Because the human brain and chocolate both contain phenethylamine, which can improve one's mood and attention span. There's comic book precedent for this too. At the end of the 4-part comic arc Venom: The Hunger, Eddie Brock discovers that Venom can survive just as well off chocolate as he can human flesh. As Eddie explains in Venom: Sign of the Boss #1, it's a bit more socially acceptable and pleasant. Throughout all of Venom, the alien symbiote constantly berates Eddie for being a loser. He's lost his fiancée, he's lost his job, he's lost his apartment, and now with Venom riding shotgun, he's slowly losing his sanity too. Venom never wastes an opportunity to put Eddie down and continually forces him to submit to his will. However, there's a moment during the film's climax that offers a different perspective on Venom's behavior. It's no excuse for the constant name-calling, but it seems that Venom's verbal, venom is a direct result of his own inferiority complex within his species. Unlike Carlton Drake's symbiote Riot or even Carnage in the sequel, Venom can't create physical weapons. Instead, he has to rely on his tendrils or use makeshift shields in combat. Riot notes in their final battle that Venom has a strong host, implying that Eddie is the only reason that Venom can successfully engage in combat with him. It's clear that on his homeworld, Venom was somewhat subservient to the other symbiotes in charge, and his decision to leave his people behind and live on Earth instead was never much of a struggle for him. Some Marvel comics have characterized Venom as an outcast among his own race, the Clintar, which the movies ran with as well. Stan Lee's movie cameos have long been beloved by fans, and the Marvel Legends appearance in Venom hit theaters just 1 month before his death at age 95. While he would sometimes show up to crack a joke at a hero's expense, he's also been known to offer characters encouragement at important moments. That's what Eddie Brock gets when he crosses paths with Lee, who seems to have overheard a conversation he had with Anne.
Hey, don't give up on her. Either of you.
We won't.
Who's that guy?
Okay.
It's a sweet and funny moment, but wait, how is Lee able to tell that Eddie is hosting a hidden buddy? It's a bit of a stretch, but it might have something to do with the MCU. Lee is seen talking to a group of Watchers in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, implying that he's an informant for the multiversal beings. But the connections to the MCU don't stop there. Eddie and Venom eventually hop over to the MCU themselves at the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage, which ties directly into the post-credit scene from Spider-Man No Way Home. Did sorcery somehow send Stan Lee to Venom's world? Stranger things have happened in the Marvel multiverse. When Anne breaks off her engagement with Eddie 15 minutes into Venom, it doesn't come as a surprise. The way she puts it, he doesn't sound like the greatest fiancé.
You are pathologically self-absorbed. Your ego requires constant attention, and you're stubborn as hell.
Taking back agency in her own life after she loses her job, Anne moves on from Eddie, gets her own place, starts dating a nice doctor, and finds work elsewhere. But although Eddie does find his way back into Anne's life, Venom doesn't end with the hero getting the girl. And that was by design. As Michelle Williams told The Hollywood Reporter, "When we started making Venom, I said to the director, Ruben Fleischer, that I know I can't exactly wear a Me Too t-shirt, but that's the feeling that I want in this movie." The star made it clear from the get-go that she wanted Anne to have the type of agency that other superhero female leads often lack, which no doubt led to Anne becoming She-Venom for her pivotal role in the third act. She continued, "I just wanted the story to have constant nods to the male-female interplay that is happening now." After Venom was released, many fans took to the internet to talk all about Symbrock, the romantic ship between Eddie and his alien parasite. Among other factors, a certain line from the film was interpreted by some to be more intimate than threatening.
I am Venom, and you are mine.
It wasn't long before fanfiction and fan art of the pair started making its way online. Soon after, Sony got wise to the free publicity and recut the Venom trailer in preparation for the home video release that December. The official rom-com trailer spoofs romantic comedy cliches from the early 2000s and 2010s. Fans would react in a similar way to the 2021 sequel, Venom: Let There Be Carnage, which was deemed a breakup movie by audiences. It seems that the third installment, Venom: The Last Dance, which boasts a tagline of "Till death do they part," will continue to play on these romantic undertones going forward. For many, the idea that Venom would get his own feature film entirely independent of Spider-Man once seemed unfathomable. Venom's origins are so distinctly tied to Spidey, after all, that it's hard to imagine how Eddie Brock and the symbiote could be united without Peter Parker somehow being involved. However, the first Venom movie proved that the characters work even better as anti-heroes than they do as villains, even though the studio still calls it Sony's Spider-Man universe. But if you felt that something was missing from Venom, you weren't alone. Rumors were circulated online that Tom Holland was present on the Venom set filming a potential cameo appearance. But director Ruben Fleischer set the record straight. He told IGN, "I think we're hoping to build to that, but no, at no point was Tom Holland going to be in this movie." Nevertheless, Venom has since connected to both the Spider-Verse series of animated films as well as the MCU, with Venom even seeing Holland's Spidey unmasked on television. Whether a variant of Holland's Spider-Man character exists within the convoluted SSU timeline or not, the fact remains that Eddie Brock and Venom are doing just fine on their own. A Spider-Man showdown would be a blast, but Venom has made a name for himself beyond his web-slinging nemesis.